Hi, everybody. So today's lesson is going to be for Monday, March 23rd. And to start, you all have a bell ringer question. Bell ringers are going to be due at the end of the month, which is not yet. So, not yet. And you have a test this Friday, the 27th. Okay, so your bell ringer question today is what was the Yalta conference? Where did it take place? What happened here? What was the goal? What was the plan for Germany? Why? Remember, I drew a picture for you all. What did Stalin promise about the Soviet satellite states? Joseph Stalin promised something at the Yalta conference. Remember, the big three, Winston Churchill and Roosevelt, met in Yalta for Joseph Stalin. They had a plan here. They wanted to be nice, all that stuff. What did they decide for Germany and why? I drew a picture, which we'll probably talk about today again. Okay, so answer your bell ringer question. You have a test on Friday. We'll finish the notes up, obviously. And if you have any questions, come to my office hours, which are Monday and Wednesday. But at any time, if you want to set up a conference, that's fine. We could one-on-one conference or group conference. It doesn't matter. Just let me know. Okay. All right. Also, there's going to be a new discussion thread for this week, so please don't use the past discussion thread. There's going to be a new one. Every week there'll be a new one. Okay, so let's recap. So Friday, we did slides 57 and 58. We talked about the Yalta conference. The big three are meeting for the second time. We saw how much the presidency has aged FDR. So sad. And they met and they were trying to appease Joseph Stalin because they wanted something from him. He made a promise that he was going to offer fair and free elections to the satellite states, but obviously he's going to break that promise because fair and free elections don't occur in Russia at all. They don't know what that is. Here are the pictures, the big three meeting, and the goal was to kind of decide what they wanted to do to end the war in Europe. Remember, they're about to conquer Germany. So what are we going to do with Germany because we don't trust them? So our next slides, we have VE Day. VE Day is a vocab word. It stands for Victory in Europe Day. Don't forget to write that in your vocab section. So before we talk about Franklin Roosevelt, let's talk about Europe. We know that the Soviet Union is getting closer and closer to Germany. They're liberating concentration camps. The goal is to make it to Berlin because that is the capital, and that's where Hitler's hiding in his bunker. We have French troops, British troops, and American troops coming in from the other side, and we all want to get closer to Germany. Hitler is losing his mind, and I'm not saying that like oh haha he's losing his mind. He really is. He has a doctor, and his doctor has been his doctor forever, and this doctor has come up with over the years a nice little concoction of vitamins, and they're not vitamins, they are drugs. So the way that one of the historians called it was it's something like a cousin to heroin. So every morning Hitler gets these drugs from his doctor because the doctor knows everything. And Hitler's one of these people that's like, oh, my doctor says so, I have to do it. And also just makes him feel better. Little does he know that he's just addicted to drugs, which don't do drugs. So Hitler is losing his mind. Just like all leaders or dictators, he has become very paranoid. He knows that people are coming for him. There was an assassination attempt on him. One of the, at a meeting house, a Nazi guard, brought in a suitcase with a bomb, and they hid it underneath his desk, and it exploded. People died, but Hitler actually survived. And so when he made it out of that, he thought that he was like a god, right? So with that complex, he thinks that he can do whatever he wants, and that's not true. And it's dangerous for somebody to think that they can just do whatever they want. So he's losing his mind. Things are not going well for him. He knows that the Allies are closing in. He's addicted to drugs. He has also aged a lot. If you look up Hitler at the beginning of the war and then look at him after the war, he has aged, but also drugs have destroyed his body. So again, don't do drugs. So Hitler's losing it. He's paranoid. Let's talk about Mussolini and Italy. Let's just kind of get the Axis powers out of the way. So Mussolini was arrested. He stepped down, even though the people kind of forced him down as leader of Italy. He was arrested, and then he was put in prison. Then the Nazis had a secret mission to rescue Mussolini, and they did. And they broke into the prison. Hitler had his top SS guards, who was a brutal man, um, get Mussolini out from this prison, and then they kept him nice and safe. Eventually, Mussolini made it back to Italy. He was killed in 1945, and literally the next day that Mussolini was killed, Hitler committed suicide in his bunker in Berlin. So, like, we're losing our leaders very quickly. So when Mussolini is murdered, his body is hung up in the square, in like a town square in Italy, along with his wife, and his body is, terrorized. I mean, the people are kicking it, they're throwing things at it, they're peeing on it, they are defacing his body because they are so upset with what he did to their great country. And his wife was also killed because they didn't want anyone to take over when he was gone. So Mussolini has been killed. The next day, Hitler's going to commit suicide. So yeah, we're going to have victory in Europe, which is why we're on VE Day, victory in Europe. And the highlighted portion, the small highlighted portion, was just about Italy and Mussolini. So I already covered that one. So Roosevelt is going to make the journey back home from the Yalta Conference, and he is exhausted, but he needs to update the country on what he has just come back from. So he makes a speech on March 1st, 1945, and I have up here, I'm going to read it directly because I have some quotes and stuff. The room was shocked by FDR's appearance, and even more shocking, he delivered the speech while seated. He confronted the issue directly in the first lines of his address, publicly acknowledging his disability for the first and only time in his presidential career. Usually when presidents address Congress, you might have seen like President Trump's State of the Union, they are standing up, and it's like a big thing. Everyone's clapping and they're applauding, and the president walks in down the aisle. On one side you have Democrats, on the other side you have the Republicans. Today it's much more polarized. And it's kind of just like a show, basically, of who's clapping and who's not. So that wasn't like that in 1945. And so FDR was already up there, and he was sitting down. And he acknowledges it first thing in the beginning of his speech. He says, quote, "I hope that you will pardon me for this unusual posture of sitting down. But I know that you will realize that it makes it a lot easier for me not to have to carry about 10 pounds of steel around on the bottom of my legs," unquote. So he was wearing the steel braces. We've talked about this before. And now people are going to start thinking, like, well, why do you have braces on your legs? Because nobody knew. So, I mean, he could still walk. It was very difficult. We've talked about this. He swung his legs around. He used his Secret Service agents or his son, or one of his sons. So he, whether that was on purpose or not, he was just exhausted. The man was president for 12 years. 12 years, and he has dealt with the Great Depression, the Dust Bowl, and World War II. He's tired. He's very tired, and he has polio. So we need to all take a minute